This is a regular meeting of the Oregon Commission for the Blind, February 7th, 2025. The time is 1 p.m.
All right, the time is now 1:02. This meeting is now called to order. Max, will you please take the roll?
Oh, certainly. If I find the right form. Nadira Broom is present. Lillian Goodman.
Here,
present. Laurel Hudson.
Present.
Alan Labrum.
Present.
Cassie Coiner.
Present.
Thank you. Stephanie is absent today. Scott said that he would be a few minutes late, but we have a quorum, so the meeting can proceed.
Okay, thank you. Now we will proceed with the approval of the minutes for the December meeting. Commissioners, I hope you all had a chance to review the minutes. And
If I could interrupt, please,
Mhm.
Nadira.
Yes.
We've had a change submitted for the minutes under legislative request for 2025, which was an action item. It's page 5, paragraph 7. And we're changing Commissioner Cassie Trosper motion to accept the request and Commissioner Nadira Broom seconded. We're changing to Commissioner Stephanie McGarry motion to accept the request and Commissioner Cassie Trosper seconded.
Okay, commissioners, we're looking for a motion to approve the corrected minutes. Do I have a motion?
This is Cassie. I'll motion to accept the corrected minutes.
Thank you, Cassie. Looking for a second?
And this is Lynn. I'll second it.
Thank you, Lillian. All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, nay. Hearing none. The motion is passed. Okay, now we will proceed with the audience introduction. Max?
I'll start. First of all, we have Daisha Johnson, the Executive Director of the agency. And then we have Jim Portillo. He's the Director for the Orientation and Career Center. Melinda Carlson, Director of Independent Living Services. Ron Stewart, Director of the Business Enterprise Program. Angel Hale, Director of Vocational Rehabilitation Services. Trinity Holthouse is a policy analyst here at the Commission. Clay France is our internal auditor. Who have I forgotten? That's with OCB. The only person who's not with OCB, we have two today, Michael and Amber. Michael, would you like to go first?
Sure, Max. Michael Babcock here, public member, just attending to observe.
Welcome. Amber?
Amber Heights, she, her pronouns. I'm here as a public observer as well. Thank you.
That's everyone, Nadira.
Hey, hi, Michael. Good to have you back. And Amber, hi. All right, so now we move on to public comment. Do we have any public comment today? No? Hearing none. Let's move on. We will proceed with the executive director report. Daisha, over to you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good afternoon, commissioners. And I do see that Scott has joined us. So welcome, Scott.
Hi, everybody. Sorry I'm late.
Hey, Scott.
We got started without Chet. I usually will turn it to our CFO. Kat has taken a well-deserved break this week, and so she's provided me with some talking points. So I'll deliver the donations and financial report. The first, starting with the bequest and donation statement. Our cash in the fund increased by $7,355 during the period. under review to 947,000 by December 31st. Is a reminder, the cost savings measure to reduce our general fund obligation. The legislature directed us to use a portion of donations to match the salary expense of one transition counselor. That obligation was carried over again to this biennium, and 45,000 of the donated funds expended through December 31st. The unobligated donations balance after this adjustment is 940,456. Any questions about the donations report? All right, we will shift with no questions to the financial report. The commission's approved budget after the 2024 short session was $28,869,741 with 67 full-time equivalent positions. $8,429,871 was general fund, 1.14 million was other funds, and 19,299,483 was federal fund limitation. Based upon 18 months worth of activity, as of December 31st, a variance to our legislatively approved budget is projected through the end of the biennium through June 30th. We're projecting that general fund would be fully utilized. Other fund limitation under budgeted by 31% or $353,405. And federal funds exceeding our approved limitation by $1,722,463 or 4.7%. As you will remember, the request approved by the commission in December meeting sought approval to present a request for the end of session bill that completes the end of this 23-25 biennium, presented to the 2025 legislative session. And I'll talk a little bit about that later on in my report. If you will recall, the board approved asking for federal fund limitation for $1.770 $806, so $1,770,806, and a general fund request not to exceed $928,428. Any questions about the financial reports? All right, no questions? Okay. Moving on to the federal update. Where do I start? I was trying to condense this. There has been a lot happening, and I decided I would bucket it into 3 large buckets with kind of a continuation into a 4th bucket. The first thing is there were a series of executive actions that President Trump made on the first day or 2 of coming into office. The first one to impact us was a freeze of diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives. And this really hit our staff significantly because we do a lot of work with businesses and other community partners and workforce partners. And so staff early on started to get questions from employers, businesses, folks to say, what does this mean if the president of the United States is opposing any diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives? So there were a couple of responses that I'll share with you. The first thing is the work that we have done related to helping individuals who are blind obtain and maintain employment has been around for, the better part of well, for sure 50 years, so the anniversary of the Rehabilitation Act we just celebrated. but it goes beyond that. So we've been doing this work for a really long time, and that work will continue. The other piece is that we've been also doing the same type of work with business, right? So we've been working with businesses to help them place and train job seekers who are blind in their workforce for decades as well. And that work will continue. I think that, to the extent there is some politicization of diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives, we are going to try to the best we can, separate out whatever political elements are at play with this work, with the actual core work that makes a difference in people's lives. And a lot of that work is memorialized in federal law. So that work will continue to happen. I do think that over time, what we refer to as diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives for the past many years, I anticipate will be called something else. And we will just kind of lean into whatever opportunities are presented. But my direction to the team is our work will continue. And Angel, I can put her on the spot because she and I know each other well. The team at this point have branded the work, and I'm going to ask her because my brain cannot remember what it is.
Well, I don't know if we can officially call it branding, but we're calling it community building and resource development, basically just focusing on the community that we serve, which does include diversity and inclusion, but using community as our new language.
Thank you, Angel.
Betcha.
So that's been rough for staff to feel like we've been engaged with work. They're super passionate about it. We've had a lot of traction and response from both job seekers as well as businesses. And it is one of those times of transition. So we are just supporting the teams where they are and getting through the process. But before I move on to the next bucket, I want to make sure there are not any questions or concerns about what we've shared thus far that commissioners want to weigh in on. All right, I will go on to the next element. Shortly after, it was early last week, so the second week of the administration, we received notification that the acting director of the Office of Management and Budget, which is their budget shop, so kind of like how our chief financial office operates within the state of Oregon, they sent out basically a one-sentence memo that directed agencies to freeze all federal funding, pending the appointment of presidential appointees and their subsequent review of the compliance of those federal funds with the presidential executive orders. So if you would imagine that one sentence caused a ripple effect across the entire country at really all levels. If you think about the amount of funds that flow through from the federal government into communities and into individuals' pockets, it was quickly clarified that they weren't talking about personal benefits like Social Security benefits, for example. And then over a period of hours, there was some additional clarification because even governors that were Republican governors were significantly concerned of the impact that any federal freeze of funding would have on their respective states and the citizens in their states. So it was a little bit more than 24 hours later that the same day the funding freeze happened, there were already lawsuits filed, and a judge in federal court issued a freeze on any type of federal funding issues to proceed forward. And then the following day, we received a recension of the previous day's memo from the same acting director of the Office Management of Budget. So within a little bit more than a 24-hour period, you can again imagine the same staff who were reeling from the impact of the diversity, equity, and inclusion started to worry that we wouldn't have federal funds, which is the majority of our funds that we use to operate our agency and service delivery. So since that time, there was some additional clarification that indicated that even with the freeze prior to the judge issuing the restraining order that said you can't do anything until the legal issues are settled, that they weren't talking about formula grants. They were looking at more on the discretionary side of the awards. Formula awards are like what we have. They are codified in federal law, and they are distributed to states on some formula like population and so on. So our awards that we receive through the U.S. Department of Education Rehabilitation Services Administration are formula awards. So we're just working through the process. Our funds are available to us to be able to draw down when we expend services that we need to have the federal funds to pay for. And so we are continuing to operate as business as usual. I'll pause there and see if there are any questions about the funding freeze. All right, not hearing any. I will point out, related to the funding issue, is if you will recall from the December meeting, we are operating under what's called a continuing resolution, which is not an uncommon status for us to have. It basically, if Congress does not pass a budget that is signed by the president, we will operate at any particular time in what's called a continuing resolution, which is typically like short-term funding pending the passing of a final budget. In late December, they passed a continuing resolution that went from December, I think, 20th through the 14th of March. So right now we are in a period of a little bit more than a month left in the current continuing resolution. And then one of two things will likely happen. If they didn't pass another continuing resolution, it is, I would say, a pretty small risk that they would experience what you've heard on the news is called a federal shutdown. That has happened in only brief periods of time, like less than a day, typically when it's ever happened since the 90s. Because it does not bode well for the administration or the parties that control either the House or the Senate. So since the Republicans are both in the presidential seat as well as the controlling majority of both the Senate and the House of Representatives, it's unlikely that that would happen. So either we would get a continuing resolution for a period of time, and they would kick the can down the road for some other future date in the future that would go a portion of the remainder of the fiscal year through September 30th, or they would pass a budget for federal fiscal year 2025 that would extend through the end of the federal fiscal year, which would be September 30th. Questions about the continuing resolution? All right. The third big bucket is, which you will maybe recall, that there was some campaign promises made related to President Trump's desire to dismantle the U.S. Department of Education. The U.S. Department of Education was formed during the Carter administration, And so it's been around for decades. And the preliminary assessments of President Trump's, then candidate Trump's, desire to dismantle the Department of Education by many folks who pontificated was that it was unlikely something that President Trump would take up when he was sworn into office. And there has been already some early indication that President Trump is at least has some preliminary interest to exploring the dismantling of the U.S. Department of Education. However, there is a few things that we just need to keep in mind. The first thing is Congress holds the power of both the purse strings. That's part of Congress's jobs to pass budgets. They also have the power of legislation. So in order to dismantle the Department of Education, it would take several legislative actions in order to do that. So it would not be a small feat to get through Congress. The U.S. Department of Education obviously does a lot of things for us as the Public Vocational Rehabilitation Program and the Independent Living Program for older adults. It also does a massive thing under the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, IDEA, and the special education programs have significant bipartisan support. So I think folks are still feeling like it's significantly unlikely that Congress would take up the presidential desire to dismantle the Department of Education. But it certainly does, again, have an impact on staff and folks who are concerned about the amount of uncertainty and the environment that is presented by the president's desires related to the Department of Education. I will pause there and see if there's any questions about that. All right, I'll just add one additional thing, that a lot of the terms and conditions that our agency would have related to how we what actions we can and cannot take related to our federal funds that we receive are spelled out in what is called a grant award notification. So, for example, when we had our December continuing resolution, we got piecemeal funding for our awards, for our supported employment funds, our vocational rehabilitation funds, and our older blind independent living funds. And along with that comes a bunch of tiny little print that says what we can and can't do with those funds and all the conditions that the federal government expects us to accept in order to be able to expend those funds. The expectation is that any of the diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives or anything that the presidential, the current administration wants states to stop doing or doesn't want us to start doing, potentially would show up in the grant award notifications moving forward. So we will just have to watch that. There are several states who have already filed suit on various terms of the current administration's direction. And I anticipate that if something showed up in grant award notifications for states that states did not think were lawful, that there would be additional lawsuits filed in that regard. Other questions about that? All right, I will move on away from the federal government, which kind of feels good given the last couple of weeks. We are at the state level in the 2025 legislative session. The legislature convened on the 21st of January. They have, by constitution, 180 days to finish their work. So that puts it out, I think, sometime at the end of June, where they will be constitutionally required to end the session. So they've kicked off their session, and as a reminder, there are a few things that they do. The first thing is they will clean up and do any end of session bills for appropriations for agencies that will get them through June 30th. That's where our request that we talked about with you would fall. And then they will be doing, obviously, looking at a lot of different types of legislation. I pulled a report to just track some of the key bills related to blindness. And I have 3 pages of bills that mention blindness. Most of them are in the education bucket. There are a couple of them in the workforce arena. And so we're just going to be tracking these. There isn't any direct impact specific to the agency listed in any of these thus far, other than obviously the House Bill 5003, which is the agency's appropriation bill. All right, well, I'll move to just talk about our appropriation process. We go in front of the Ways and Means Subcommittee. They have the Ways and Means broken out into subcommittee by policy area. Our budget presentation is in front of the Human Services policy area, and we've been tentatively given a date of Wednesday, February 26th for our budget presentation. They typically will notice it as a combination of the agency presenting our budget along with the public testimony portion of the bill. So they'll do a public hearing on the bill as well as invited agency testimony. And we think at this point that will be Wednesday, February 26th. So we are busy preparing for that particular opportunity. We have basically an outline where we have to present certain required elements of information. And then they ask for some specific reference materials that we won't present on, but are available to the public. All of the legislature's business is done at the Capitol. It will be an in-person session, but you can also tune in on the computer on the OLIS, or Oregon Legislative Information System. And I will be certain to share that link. The meetings for this time, last session, they were at 8 a.m. We lucked out this time. The committee is meeting at 1 o'clock in the afternoon this time around. So we'll be there. I think they're scheduled to meet from 1 to 3 several times a week. So we'll be there for a couple hours, likely on February 26th. Any questions about that? All right. The next item, we just wanted to alert you and just remind you, we are still undergoing the federal compliance audit. The follow-up to last year, they canceled our status meeting today, which is probably good news. No news is good news. But we anticipate that they will be wrapping up their field work. And if we're not able to give you a full report by your April meeting, depending on when they wrap up, we should for certain be able to do that at your June meeting. Any questions about the federal compliance audit? A reminder, our federal compliance audit under the Single Audit Act is done by the Secretary of State Audits Division. They'll audit key federal awards on behalf of the federal government on a scheduled basis. All right, the only item outstanding, Madam Chair, is due to the change in direction at the direction of the governor's office. as we will, the governor's office has decided to allow the agency to request the amount of $67,779 from the general fund, which changes that change in our general fund ask, changes the federal fund not to exceed amount. And the agency would like, at the commission's consideration, for you to allow the agency to add an additional $66,574 in federal fund limitation to our 23-25 end of session bill request that is due this afternoon.
So we are looking for a motion. Yes.
This is Kathy. I'll make that motion to allow those funds.
Thank you.
God, I'll second.
Thank you. All right, all in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, say nay. Hearing no opposition, the motion is passed.
Thank you all. Madam Chair, that concludes my report.
Thank you, Daisha. Now we're moving into old business, the summer work experience program.
All right. Good afternoon, commissioners. This is Angel, and I am we're in the process right now of having our applications come in from clients, but I do want to just give you a sense about what's happening as we're doing some evolution for our summer work experience program, which is exciting. We are in process of course, we have our Portland-based program, which we're currently calling Emerging Leaders, SWEP Emerging Leaders, so that we can really focus on those leadership skills for our students that we've been reinforcing over many years with our Portland-based students, and that will continue to be at Portland State University. We don't know our numbers yet for that particular program because we're really in the process of getting all of our applications in, which the due date is the end of February. So we should have more information at your next meeting, of course. And then we also have, as I have mentioned, we have our what used to be considered our Salem and community-based programmings that are now combined, and we're calling it SWEP Explorations right now. And that is just an opportunity for students to, through their application process, articulate if they are not able to attend Portland SWEP, what they are able to and interested in committing to at least having a conversation with us about. And the range of services there are going to be from participating in the Yes One program that has been traditionally provided by the Washington Blind and Washington School for the Blind programming and is housed at Washington School for the Blind. So we will be participating in that, essentially a 10-day program for students that can start as early as 14. So that's the other big difference that's really exciting about our new programming for SWEP is we can actually serve students before they're actually able to work as temps for the temp agencies that we work for that do require that students are 16 years or older. So now we're able to serve a larger portion of the population of the people that are allowable under the VR program for us to serve under the pre-employment transition services. So that's exciting. And we're continuing to educate our partners about this because I think even though it's part of the application process, I think they're glazing over it a little bit because they're not used to seeing that we're going to serve students as early as 14. So we are meeting regularly with our partners throughout Oregon just to make sure that they really understand that the scope of services has actually expanded to not only the YES program, but other community-based pre-employment transition services that we can offer, of course, throughout the school year, but especially when students are most available during that SWEP time in the summer. So those are my quick highlights of our programming. More to come as we get more ideas of the number of students that we're going to be serving. I will, just as a quick little highlight that is related to, but not directly attributable to our SWEP programming. We are having a lot more interest in our regional programs, looking to have contract opportunities with us to provide pre-employment transition services. So this is evolving, but as an example, we now have Southern Oregon ESD as a contractor with us to provide pre-employment transition services throughout the year, and potentially to provide coaching and other supports throughout the summer for community-based work experiences that would be considered SWEP programming. And we're in process with a couple other of regional programs literally as we speak. Like we've met with them last week, this week, and next week for different regional programs who are raising their hand and wanting to have more conversations about starting contracts with us. So that's really exciting for the opportunities that will be expanding for students throughout Oregon who experience vision loss. I think I'll leave it at there. And if there are any questions for me, I'd sure be happy to take them.
Well, I'm loving the sound of that, Angel, and I'm looking forward to the updates.
Thank you so much.
Any questions, commissioners?
This is Cassie. I have a quick question.
Go ahead, Cassie.
Hey, Angel. So I know you said Southern Oregon. Is there certain counties that might involve, or are you guys kind of looking over more towards like the Southern Coast area?
So Southern Oregon ESD does encompass several counties I don't have in front of me, but they are mostly so towards the Medford and surrounding areas. So that'd be like Grants Pass, Medford, Ashland, down into the coast. I think that does cover Brookings. You're in Coos Bay, I believe, right?
Yeah, we're in Coos County.
Coos County. So I don't think it encompasses that far over, but we do have some interest in folks that are in your neck of the woods. So more to come, Cassie, in terms of what might be possible for students that are down that part of the coast for regional programs providing that additional pre-employment transition kind of service.
Awesome. Sounds good. Thanks, Angel.
You bet. Thank you.
This is Scott. I just want to say we're really excited about the partnership, and I hope that this provides some new opportunities for kids to get connected with other kids too, and to broaden their community and horizons. And I hope we live up to everything that you're expecting.
I'm so excited, Scott, to be, I'm just as excited, and I'm really looking forward to the expansion of relationships for our students, and the opportunity for them to be at your campus and really get exposed to all the things that your team can expose our students to that are possibilities for them. So thank you so much for extending that to us.
All right. Any more questions? All right, hearing none. Thank you, Angel.
You bet.
All right, now we move into new business. And we begin with the 2025 commission meeting schedule. Daisha?
Sure, I'll chime in. Commissioners, we just wanted to take a minute to just let folks know of the commission meeting schedule, which I'm trying to quickly go through my pile. Max, do you have that handy so we could read off the dates? I found it. I could do it. All right, so for the remainder of the calendar year, what we have scheduled is the 4th of April, the 6th of June, the 1st of August, and I want to just verify with Angel that lines up with what we think planned for SWEP.
Yes, indeed. That should work out just fine, unless some weird wonky thing comes up, and we'll for sure let you know as soon as we do if there's a problem with PSU or any other regional programs. Snow days don't seem to be an issue this year. So that sometimes will push us out.
Great, thank you. And then to finish off the year, the 3rd of October and the 5th of December. So the chair asked for us to just contemplate a couple of things. The first thing, just as a reminder, we've been meeting virtually now that we've gotten accustomed to the Zoom environment. The advantages of the Zoom is that it is fully accessible to anyone, anywhere who wants to be able to join us, and they're not limited to participate as a member of the public or a member of the commission, no matter where they are. We used to, it's hard to even imagine this time, meet every other month in person. And obviously we have not done that since the pandemic. But it doesn't have to be settled now, but we wanted to just put it out there for the commission's consideration that if you wanted to target an annual in-person meeting or two, then it's certainly at your pleasure. The staff will be here to support whatever format you so desire. So for 2025, we thought you might want to consider an in-person or hybrid meeting on that SWEP on the 1st of August. The students come to the Portland headquarters. And so if you wanted a little bit of positive energy to finish off the rest of your year by having the SWEP students around on that day, then we would certainly be happy to facilitate an in-person meeting and opportunity to engage with the students. Not a requirement, statutory or otherwise, but certainly an opportunity for meaningful engagement.
Dacia, do you mind if I?
Oh, I want
Not at
to
all.
go ahead.
Oh, I just real quick, I just wanted to just, again, this is Angel. And the other benefit is that you would have the opportunity to be in town for the end of SWEP celebration, which is also a pretty powerful event to be able to be in person for.
This is Scott. I would just like to, I won't be there, unfortunately, but I would like to advocate for everyone to consider doing that meeting in person. It is just a better experience, I think, being in the room with the students. And I still have a video of this one young lady performing to all of us. I've watched it so many times because she sings so beautifully, and I just weep when I watch it. It's so amazing. But there's a strength to being there for that event and connecting with the kids. So just want to, for those of you who have not done that, I would highly recommend you consider, if nothing else, that meeting trying to be in person.
I'll just put in my 2 cents because I came in the pandemic, so I never experienced the in-person meetings, but I do like the sound of being there to interact with the SWEPies, and I just want to open the floor up to the other commissioners. We don't have to decide at this very moment, as Dacia said, but it's good to put it out there. So if I can get your feedback, your initial feedback on this.
This is Cassie. I think it would be awesome. I am going to be flying back in from Alabama, I think about that time. So I could make that work. I think that would be an awesome opportunity to be there. I wanted to be there last year. It just didn't work out. So.
Okay, awesome. Okay, Lillian?
I would love to be there. I just don't think logistically I would be able to make it all the way out to the office that day. Yeah.
Dr. Labram?
Yeah, I think it's a great idea, and unfortunately, I'm actually flying to Calgary at that time to pick up my kids who are staying at their grandparents. So I feel very disappointed now that it's that day. I wish I thought about that prior. But I think if it's like a mixed virtual and in-person visit, I can definitely participate virtually this year. But then going forwards, I'll plan better and definitely want to join in those swap meetings.
Well, it sounds like we all think that the virtual, is more convenient for all of us. So yeah, so going forward, we continue the virtual meetings, but yeah, this August meeting, we'll see. I like the in-person thing, so we can go ahead and yeah, we can go ahead and set the in-person for whoever can make it in person. And yeah, Daisha, I guess we could work out the logistics. See if it's possible to do a hybrid at the time.
Madam Chair, that's in essence what we've been doing
Yeah.
for the SWEP students.
Yeah.
So we would just be doing the inverted, right? We'd have a portion of the
Mhm.
more folks in person here at the headquarters
Yeah.
and less online, but we certainly could accommodate a hybrid meeting.
Yeah.
We have the technology to do that at this point, and it'll be
Okay.
good practice for us.
Yeah.
We
Okay.
can certainly make that happen.
All right. Thank you, commissioners. Everyone. All right. Now we continue with, oh, excuse me, my schedule here. The agency service delivery overview. And we'll start with the vocational rehabilitation.
Madam Chair, before we do that, if you wouldn't mind, the next grab the audit plan agenda item, which is just, it's sneakily in between
Oh, that one is not.
the 2025
Thank
audit
you.
plan.
The 2025. Thank you. Thank you. That wasn't in my on the page I had. I'm so sorry.
No
All
problem.
right. So
Clay's
sorry,
been waiting
Clay.
to go, I'm sure.
I'm ready, and I will make it short and as sweet as possible.
My apologies, Clay. Thank you.
Yeah. Good afternoon, commissioners. This is Clay France. I'm the internal auditor, and it's a pleasure to be here with you again. As you may recall, at the last meeting in December, I reviewed the 2024 risk assessment with you. And just as a reminder on that risk assessment, the leadership team and I worked together reviewing risks that we had identified over the past several years and discussed new risks and updated our risk tracking log. And then we identified the top risks, and then I presented those, excuse me, to you at the last meeting. One of the primary purposes of the risk assessment is to influence the internal audit plan. And so we have done that. We've created the 2025 internal audit plan, and I will just spend a minute or two here going over the highlights with you. You have the detailed plan, so I won't go into a lot of the detail, but I'll just give you a high-level overview. The plan includes an internal audit, some project work, some consulting work, and audit follow-up. So a little more detail there. The audit we are proposing is what we're calling an RFA vendor contracts audit, which is basically reviewing the process for initiating, approving, and monitoring our professional services contracts. So I performed this audit in 2023, and we identified some areas for improvement. And since then, we've had some turnover in staff. And so we believe we've strengthened the internal controls in this area. And so this audit is on the schedule to go back and take another look at it, and just to ensure that the changes we have made have taken hold and are working effectively. On the audit plan, there's also a fair amount of project work. Some of that is we're continuing to work on the record retention schedule in developing a special record retention schedule for the agency as well as a policy. And then I'm doing some work with Angel and her team on the VR policy manual update and getting that large policy updated. And then at some point that will be presented to you as well. Other areas I'm working on, consulting work. We are starting to talk about how best to track all of the contracts within the agency across all of the programs within the agency. So I'll be doing some consulting work on that, as well as our self-employment process for our clients. And then kind of the last piece of the audit plan is I'm serving as the primary liaison with the Secretary of State auditors as they do the federal compliance audit, which Daisha mentioned earlier. And then also we're still in the final stages of wrapping up our corrective action plans with RSA for our 2022 monitoring visit. And then also within the plan, we have a bucket of hours of 240 hours that we're calling management requests. So that's available for items that come up throughout the year, either a request by the leadership team or a request by you, the commissioners, for work for me to do. And then lastly, I've allotted some hours on an ongoing basis to ensure that our risk assessment is kept up to date, as well as our QA manual, which houses all of our documented internal controls to make sure those are kept current. So that is the audit plan at a high level, and I would welcome any questions or comments. Oh, one last thing. We do consider it a dynamic plan, so it can change throughout the year as risks change or new needs emerge. So we want it to be flexible and as useful as possible. Any questions?
Any questions, commissioners? Right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Clay. And again, I apologize.
Oh, no worries at all.
Yes, the adventures of Jaws and its skipping tire. Okay, all right. So now we'll be moving on to hearing from the agency service. For the overview, we'll be hearing from the vocational rehabilitation program first.
Right. Well, good afternoon again, commissioners. This is Angel, and I'm going to start my timer so I stay timely for my part of the presentation. Yes, I'm going to do a quick overview of the vocational rehabilitation program here at the Oregon Commission for the Blind. And as a reminder, we do have our funding for vocational rehabilitation is the same federal funding that comes into the general agency for folks who experience all the other disabilities outside of legal blindness. And we have 15.6% of that grant that comes into the state of Oregon. So those funds, as well as our state funds, are used to provide exemplary services to our participants who are throughout the state of Oregon. We do serve under the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act, both clients who are served within the Oregon Commission for the Blind and our employment partners throughout the state of Oregon. So that is something that you'll hear the dual customer approach is something that we talk about a lot under the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act as part of the services that we provide to Oregonians, both in the employment and in our voc rehab arena. There are a couple of things that I wanted to just be sure that we point out is that one of the things that my team does is that we're not only providing, but we're coordinating services for clients. And that does allow them not only to develop their independent living, but also to achieve their employment outcomes. So a lot of the folks that join us as new counselors and new staff and interns, one of the things they love about OCB is how holistic our approach is. And that is because we are very, very much about having a multidisciplinary team that surrounds a client to get them where they need to be for independent living and then move them towards those employment goals. So then we want to talk a little bit about how those services are actually delivered. So our counselors are the primary people that interface with clients from the VR side of things. And of course, we have our human service assistants that are helping with all of the stages along the way. So I want to acknowledge there is not one person within the agency who doesn't touch a VR, helping us to make sure that clients are moving along all of these spectrums of service. But we are moving people from the referral all the way through their individual plans for employment, which is essentially when they start service delivery. And then we're helping clients to get all of the skills and resources and supports that they need to move them into that kind of job development stage as needed. And then ultimately, the whole goal is employment, which is a lot of work on everybody's part, including everyone on that multidisciplinary team and including all of our accounting staff and everyone who supports making sure that those services are not only acquired, but paid for timely, and so that we stay in good standing with all of our partners and people that are helping us to move those clients along. The other thing I do want to note is that we have a workforce team who is also directly part of the VR team. And that team does a lot of the service delivery that is regarded, that as I was talking about, that dual customer approach. They're working with employers to develop those relationships and make sure that we have placements for clients for progressive employment opportunities, which are mock interviews, the company tours, the lighter touch, but also some of the more extensive touches that we do with businesses around paid work experience, and then that ultimate employment. We also have admin staff that help support the process, and Trinity being one of the people that was mentioned that is visiting on the call today. But we have policy and operations analysts and staff that help us make sure that we're meeting all of the goals within the VR program. And I also want to just make sure that we draw the line between all of the different programs that you're going to be hearing from coming up. A lot of the center and business enterprise and independent living teams are all working to support not only the folks that they're supporting, depending on where they're at in their vocational goals, but also, as an example, the independent living team is serving not only IL clients, but also VR clients out in the field. Some of the things that are challenges that we're facing are going to be things that I've brought up before. Foundational needs for clients. There is a lot of uncertainty in the atmosphere right now. And so our vocational clients are no different. That 5 minutes went really fast. So I'm just going to zoom on through here. That one of the things that we are making sure that we're trying to pay attention to is getting the social services and foundational needs for people with home insecurities and all of the things that clients need to even feel like they can think about a vocational goal. And also having a variety of clients who have multiple disabilities coming in through our system. So sometimes blindness is the least of their worries. Quick overview of performance. So for the last federal fiscal year, October 1 of 2023 through September 30th, 2024, we had 57 clients that were closed successfully, and we served 752 clients during that time frame. We had people that were earning just under $30 an hour that as an average income, so well above minimum wage. And that we had a 94% satisfaction. It went up from 84% in the prior year. So that's exciting. And then some other just quick things to celebrate. Just the level of support that our teams are able to provide to clients during this really trepidatious time, as it relates to not just employment, but all of the things that I just mentioned to support them. And then some quick things about where we close clients, computer or technology kinds of professions. Education. We also had people closed in healthcare, human services, office and clerical. We had a good number of people just recently who are closed in business enterprise. So we've got a lot of folks just in business, high business level and business clerical positions that we've closed. And then in our workforce team, we're just doing a ton of collaboration with both the general agency and other partners throughout the state to make sure that we're understanding what the workforce is like and how those placements and the labor market is going to meet the needs of our clients and how our clients can meet the needs of that labor market. So I think I'll leave it at that for now, and then we'll open up the rest for questions either later, Daisha, or during my segment. I'm not sure if you wanted to wait.
It's really at the pleasure of the commission. Madam
Okay.
Chair, you can decide how you want to handle questions.
Any questions? Any questions, though?
Okay. If it comes up in context, I'm happy to hop in, but thank you all. We can't do this work without your support, so we appreciate it.
Thank you, Angel. All right, now we're moving on to the independent living program.
Good afternoon, commissioners. This is Melinda Carlson. This is my favorite meeting of the year because I get to share about our department. So the IL department, Independent Living, serves all Oregonians that are not on a vocational track. So we have them divided into two groups. One is over 55, and that funding comes from the Older Blind program. And then clients that are under 55, the federal funding is called Part B. And we do have the same eligibility standards for our under 55 group, that they do need proof of legal blindness, but our over 55 group just need to have severe visual impairments that are decreasing their independence. Okay, now let's talk about service delivery. One thing that's very unique about the IL department is that we're serving our clients in their homes. And the reasoning for that is that a lot of our folks are unable to travel or do not have travel skills yet. So by meeting them in their homes, we are able to provide those services, as well as being able to actually teach them in their home by looking at things like their lighting and how to actually mark their appliances and reducing glare. So those things are so much easier to do when you're in the client's home. The primary services that clients are asking us for include functional vision exams, which have a lot to do with magnification. Also with tinted glare shields that may help reduce glare, and lighting, as I mentioned a minute ago. This would be the time that we would determine if a magnifier would be helpful for them. People are also asking for techniques of daily living. They're also asking for adjustment to vision loss, communication, a lot of iPhone training, and orientation and mobility. We have some challenges, and you've heard them before. Staffing. We have 9 positions for the team, but we've been operating for the last year or two between 6 and 7 of those being filled. So that is just a problem across the United States, finding instructors that have those degrees in vision-related fields like orientation, mobility, low vision therapy, etc. We have an extra ever-growing number of referrals. So this is big news. Listen, because it's exciting. We served 1,199 older blind clients. That's an increase of 38%. The next highest year that we had was pre-COVID in 2019. So that was an increase of 38% from the 2019 numbers. In our younger blind or Part B program, we had a 75% increase from our highest pre-COVID year of 219. So there's good things that come from that. We're serving way more Oregonians. Of course, the challenge is that the team, without being fully staffed, is they are working super hard. The wait time in Portland is significantly longer, between 3 and 4 months between the time we get a referral and we're able to serve them, versus outside of Portland, where we have an average of 3 weeks or less. And that's all because of Portland getting so many referrals and being down 2 teachers. We have one hired now and another one coming mid-March. So hopefully those numbers will be improved. Really great survey, satisfaction survey responses. I think the highlights are that 100% of the older blind and the Part B clients would recommend OCB for their services or for services to others. Celebrations, 100% also of our clients in IL showed some increase in their skills during that last federal fiscal year. And we have someone, I just mentioned, we have someone starting in the Portland office on March the 10th. And we're just at the very end of hopefully hiring someone for our Eugene position, which has been empty for quite some time. So cross your fingers for us. Another wonderful thing that has happened is that we were able to have an additional tier for our instructors who many of them had topped out in salary in the rehabilitation instructor field tier. So now we have vocational rehabilitation specialist that's going to give our staff more reason to stay with us because they have opportunities to grow in that pay tier. I'm also very proud that we're able to provide our teaching staff with a really robust teacher kit. So they have the ability to bring with them all this demo equipment to show the clients. And I want to end with some positive testimonials we got from our staff satisfaction survey. And this is kind of hot off the presses. So I've got 4 for you. One is you have great communication and services. Another person said the individual home training was essential. I wouldn't have learned it without being home and getting a one-on-one demo. The next is I felt more confident that there is help as my eyesight gets worse. And I'm going to end with I feel I can take care of myself now. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Melinda. I love to hear that.
Yeah.
I'm so glad to hear. Any questions for Melinda, commissioners?
Hey, Melinda, this is Scott. I'm curious, how is it that you had 38% increase in the one group and 75% increase in the other? What allowed for that to happen?
Well, the Part B population is very small that we serve. So our highest year in the past has been 44 clients, and we jumped to 75 this year. I think that I think there are more people out there that are not utilizing this program, and they're starting to hear more about us. So I think that that's why we've seen a jump. I don't know why the older blind is such a large percentage of people coming into that program. You know,
Is it more people coming in, or is it your increased ability to serve more people? I mean,
we have had 9 positions for over a year, but we haven't had them filled. So I don't know that we really are able to serve more people. We are serving more people because we want to make sure that everybody gets services. But I really just believe that people are starting to reach out post-COVID. And, I think everybody in our society is doing a better job of finding resources.
mm-hmm. Cool. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Melinda. Okay, moving on to the OCCB, Orientation and Career Center for the Blind.
Good afternoon. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Good afternoon. My name is Jim Portillo, and I am I'm the new center director. I've been here for about a year now, And it's definitely a pleasure to address you this afternoon and to also just kind of talk about some of the awesome and fantastic things that the center is doing. I'm just pleased to be here and just letting you know about some of the things we're doing. So, first of all, let's talk about the purpose of our program. So, we are definitely part of the VR program. And our focus is to deliver quality training in the skills of blindness to our VR clients so that they can go back into the working world or go back to school. But more than that, if they don't feel comfortable in the skills of blindness and in themselves as blind people, then it's going to be hard for them to be confident in going back to work. So I love what Angel said about OCB being so holistic in its approach, because I really believe that we're a team. We work one-on-one with the counselors and with our clients to where, we address all of the issues so that they can feel like they can be successful. So what does that mean? Well, first of all, the counselors will meet with the incoming clients. They'll make referrals to us. And then we will do assessments in what skills they currently have. And we will make recommendations. We will make suggestions on what, skills or classes they will need to take. And then we will come up with a plan for them to take the classes. So some might want what we call the full meal deal. So that's where they take all the classes all at one time, or some may just be able to take a few classes first of all, and then come back for other classes as needed. Also depending on whether or not a few of them are still employed. So that's what we do there. So our service is delivered. First of all, let me just tell you what classes we are currently doing here at the training center. So we've got Braille orientation and mobility, meal prep, techniques of daily living, adaptive devices, technology, woodshop, and other miscellaneous classes. So, for example, one is called business communications, and another one is perhaps our most popular, and that's our living with blindness discussions. And we are finding that those who take, especially the living with blindness class prior to actually starting training with the rest of our classes, they tend to be more successful because they are beginning to learn to deal with their blindness on a deeper level. So the majority of our classes are individual, although we do have group classes, and more we're coming up with more types of group classes that can be had. So currently, classes such as Braille, keyboarding, sometimes meal prep, but generally that's still individual. And some of the adaptive devices, like phones, those are all group classes. Things like orientation and mobility and more individualized computer training are still done one-on-one. Also, about 75% of our training is done in person, but we have learned that there is room for remote classes as well. And some of our clients really appreciate that because they can continue to do things like work, or some can't come to Portland for everything, but they can take some classes via remote. Let's see. So sometimes our classes or our experiences for our clients at the training center go beyond just your typical classes. We do also have events. So, for example, our Dining with Grace seminar, I'll call it, that's coming up next week. And that is where a lot of people, they will learn about good eating etiquette. They will have a lot of questions answered. How do you do this when you're blind all of a sudden? How do you, have salad and not spill anything or things like that? So it's a great place for learning that kind of thing. We also have a Safe Without Sight, which is kind of a self-defense class, and that is done off campus at a jiu-jitsu center. And it is done by someone who's been working with OCB and blind people for a long time. And finally, we have our end of term celebrations. And that is an event all in itself. And for those who are ever here, and I'm happy to send out invitations, but I really invite for you to come and see our students in action. They prepare a fantastic meal, and they also celebrate their accomplishments, which is very cool. I would say we just had two graduations this past December. One of a person who is going back to school, and one who's looking for work and just has developed a lot more confidence. So you are all invited whenever we have these end-of-term celebrations. Let's see. We do have specialized instructors, so they all have their degrees in one way or another, or certifications, which is good. And also, 6 of our 10 instructors are also blind, which allows for our clients to identify with them on a greater level. Opportunities and challenges. So we're still working on staff development, and we continue to want more training, and we are doing that. We just had training this past year on things dealing with adult learning, ADHD, and we also had some specialized technology training for those who are looking for more specific technology on the job. We're also part of a new reimagining scope at OCB, working with the workforce and with some other OCB staff, how we can better deliver career services to our clients, which is great. Part of our challenges will still include things like student attendance. People get sick, or life gets in the way, or other things come in, and sometimes that will allow, they will need to pause their training for a little bit and maybe come back to their training later on. So, and then also we do have a wait list, and that could be both good and bad, right? Because we're continuing to be popular, but at the same time, we are looking at how to continue to provide the best quality services without having people wait for too long. Overview of program performance. So I did a little bit of averaging, and we've easily served over 150 clients over the past year. And in general, our average has been about 82 that have been per term. So we have 4 terms per year. So 82 on average have been enrolled with us. About 5 have been residential. The rest have been either remote or in person. People still spend about 9 months at our training center. Some need to prolong their training for one reason or another. And some, just will take some classes and then decide that they're done and they're ready to get back to work. So it's all individual, and we all discuss it with our instructors and clients. Finally, celebrations. Everyone seems very happy with our training here as far as clients go. I hear nothing but good things about what they learn and what they all of a sudden think about themselves as blind people. I had one person recently who went on an interview, and she just started with us, and yet she decided that she had enough skill to at least interview for a part-time job at a tax service, being an interpreter for Spanish speakers. And she wants to continue to take our classes, but she already knows that she can be fully successful as a blind individual. And continuing to just give people an opportunity to learn as we continue. And we're looking at new classes coming up. For example, English as a second language, and even some MAC training. So some people have been happy about that. And that is our training center. Does anyone have any questions?
Jim, this is Scott. Of course, I have questions. Woodshop teacher, is your current woodshop teacher blind?
Yes, he is.
Yes. Okay. I want to meet this person, and we have a woodshop program here, and I want to collaborate with this person. So I'll reach
Sure,
out
Scott.
connect with you.
I can certainly put you and Braden in touch with one another.
Oh my gosh, I would love that. Second of all, this person that you mentioned that is wanting to be a Spanish language interpreter,
Yes.
um, are they looking for work? Because we have
Yes, I
we have a
know she
student,
is.
actually, we have two students who are Spanish only speakers right now, and I have to, I'll check and see if we've been able to hire somebody. We've been looking for somebody to serve as a Spanish interpreter for this student. And it's been a
Tell you
barrier
what,
right now for them coming to our school. So,
sure. Well, get in touch with me, Scott, and I'm happy to put you in connection with these folks.
oh,
And
you got it. Thanks, Jim. Appreciate
Scott, just to jump in here, if you want to send that to both Jim and I, we may have other folks that may be interested in that opportunity as well from just the full VR side of things. We have a lot of dual language clients that are going into interpretation services.
Cool. I love that. They are hard to find, and I would love to hire them. So cool. I'll reach out to you guys.
Okay, great.
I have a question. Oh, go
Yes.
ahead. No. Okay, just a quick question. So who's the current meal prep teacher?
Her name is Ella Browning, and she's been with us a couple, 3 years, something like that.
Yeah, I know Ella. She's a former classmate of mine.
Okay.
Okay. So go ahead, the question.
Thank you. So first of all, oh my gosh, I mean, I want to just say thank you for this program because, around 10 years ago, I found myself, needing to find out how to be blind and like live again. So, I think of folks like Mike Yamada and Shar and just these folks who showed me that my life wasn't over again. These services are so needed. I think I was with the cohort that ended the blended services. So, there was the folks who were looking for work and then the folks who were transitioning, and we had a great big graduation ceremony for them. And my whole life changed because of this program, literally. And I wouldn't be where I am today if it wasn't for these services. My biggest question, I guess, would be, do we know if there's ever been any consideration about relocation of the classes, like the Commission for the Blind building itself, or has that ever been considered an issue or anything that would be like reconsidered or relocated? Is my question.
Jim, I'll
I
fill
honest,
that. This is
thank
Daisha.
you. Thank you.
You can phone a friend. The history, Amber, of this building, it was actually built with some donated funds, the majority of the building in the 1950s, but on behalf of a donor by the Oregon Community Foundation. So this building was built on behalf of Oregonians who are blind, and although we've looked and contemplated, as we always do in terms of long range planning, any relocation, if we were to ever move, one, would take lots and lots of planning, and two, the advantage of the location that we have, it's centrally located, so just east of the river, and so it has access, in close proximity to public transportation, which obviously would be another one. The other piece that, as you heard about the training center, the advantages, we would be uniquely set up. We couldn't just occupy any office space, with our kitchen and wood shop and other things. So the expense of relocating and retrofitting the unique building needs that we would have traditionally been something that has been cost prohibitive. Now, improvements to this location are something that we are consistently advocating for, and probably more of a topic of conversation than ever relocating. But I would never say never, because, that's probably not smart to say, but it is a state-owned building that was donated and built on our behalf.
Thank you for sharing that information. It's nice to know that there's nostalgia involved there.
Yeah. Plus, everybody can find us that has gotten services from us, and I'm regularly reminded of that. There's no, that's not any, we can't undervalue that.
All right, any further questions? Hearing none? Thank you, Jim. All right, now we have is someone saying something? Okay, guess not. All right, now we have the Business Enterprise Program.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. I'm Ron Stewart, the Director of the Business Enterprise Program. The purpose of the Business Enterprise Program is to provide self-employment opportunities to Oregonians who are legally blind and wish to run their own food concession businesses. Our service delivery, we provide training. OCB and the Business Enterprise Program staff provide free classroom and operational skills training with an emphasis on food service management, customer service, and food preparation, health, and safety. The Business Enterprise Program staff helps participants acquire the appropriate certifications and licenses to manage and operate concessions such as espresso stands, micro markets, traditional vending routes, cafes, or food carts. As soon as participant receives the appropriate licensure and certifications, they're eligible to bid on existing opportunities around the state of Oregon. Opportunities that we provide is we're in consistent communication with other agencies and public sites such as public buildings, state parks, rest areas throughout the state to identify new opportunities for food and beverage businesses to be operated by our vending facility managers. We also provide ongoing support. Business Enterprise Program provides vending facility managers with support in all areas of business management and operations to ensure a well-run, efficient, and profitable business. Some of the challenges we face, one of the major challenges that we've faced is the closure of the full-service cafeterias in some public buildings due to diminished building population since COVID. We've replaced these revenue streams with micro markets and vending machines, and have recently created new opportunities with the food cart program and are looking into smart stores. Program performance for fiscal year 2024. We had gross sales of $3,165,686. That's up 15% from the previous year. Vendor earnings of $815,776, and that's up 22% from the previous year. And the average vending facility manager earnings of $64,847, and that's up 45% from the previous year. Some success stories that we've got. We've got two vending facility managers who were awarded profitable facilities to help grow their existing facilities. One Business Enterprise Program trainee received their license. Two licensees were awarded their first vending routes. One new vending route was established. 67 state-owned vending machines were deployed for self-service use by vending facility managers to help grow their businesses. And two food carts were built locally in Oregon for future use by vending facility managers. And then finally, just a couple updates that we're excited about. We've got a food cart at the Capitol building that is opening this month. It's our first pilot food cart for our new food cart program. So that's opening in about 2 weeks. And we also have a new facility in Portland that's going out to bid to the vending facility, the vending managers. That's actually going out to bid today. So we're super excited about those developments. Are there any questions?
What's the,
Go ahead.
thank you. What type of food? So the new food cart, what type of food is it?
They are going to be doing sandwiches. Well, they'll be doing two things. They will have it'll be kind of a coffee cart and breakfast cart with bagels, cream cheese, breakfast burritos, breakfast sandwiches, things like that in the morning. And then in the afternoon, it'll be kind of a globally inspired sandwiches, salads, salad wraps, and creative quesadillas.
Hey, Ron, this is Laurel. Just curious, is there a location for the Portland cart yet, or is it still TBD?
For the Portland cart,
Yeah.
the cart that's opening this month, I'm sorry, is down at the Capitol building in Salem in Wilson Park.
Oh, yeah, but the one that's going out to bid today. Do you
Oh, the
know?
facility. Yes, it's the
Oh,
Edith
it's a
Green building.
facility. It's a
Yes,
what?
yes. The Edith Green building. It's a federal
Oh,
building.
okay. Yep.
Yep.
Awesome. Just curious. Thank you.
Sure.
That was awesome. I love it.
Thank you.
Yeah, me too. Any more questions? Okay. Thank you, Ron.
Thank you.
All right. The time, well, does anyone else have any comments or questions before I adjourn?
This is Laurel. I have one more comment.
Okay.
Nothing against Ron, what you guys are doing. I know you're doing great. I love it. But for so many years, that's all we heard about was the program you're running. And it's just so nice to hear. And of course, all the other work that's happening behind closed doors that we don't get to normally hear about. So I just want to thank you for bringing your stories and your successes and your celebrations and sharing them with us. It's made my day.
You, Laurel. I agree with you, by the way. Okay. All right. I would like to, before I wrap up, I'd just like to say, I know Scott's here, and this being my first meeting, my first official meeting as chair, I thank everyone for all the support I've gotten, and I suspect that my first couple of meetings will be me ironing out the kinks and finding my footing, finding my style. So yeah, I just appreciate everyone's support, and yeah, look forward to continuing. Okay. And the time is now, oh, thank you. 2:34. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you.